Welcome, everybody. So we're going to talk about getting steps at your desk. And, I always try to make these things a little, maybe have some piece of information that you haven't heard before. I think we've all heard kind of the usual things that you can read on the internet. And of course, I've included some of those, but I've tried to include some other things that you might want to look at today as we enter that March into May. And the things we're going to talk about today are things to consider, as we are looking at actually getting steps at our desk, which I kind of translate to steps while we're at work. How are we going to take this time while we're at work and translate it into our steps so that we can win March into May. So I'm going to talk about things that we can consider in that, and then what activities can we actually do, right? It's really easy, for someone to say, oh, well, just do this and just do that. Well, that might not work for you. So let's really think about what can we do from our desk. And nowadays, we're not all at our cubicle. Many of us are at our home, which might present some different options. And we can talk about those as well. So if you have questions, comments, things to share, you can interrupt me. You can put them in the chat. I definitely will address them when we're done. And we are going to move a little bit today, just as a little experiment. So, all right. Oh, whoa, hey. All right, so here we go. So first thing we need to talk about is shoes, right? If you're going to work still, like out of your home into work, and you're like, but I want to get steps at work, then you need to figure out what's on your feet. If you are a fashion person, a male, female oriented, meaning traditionally male shoes or traditionally female shoes, it doesn't really matter if you're wearing high heels or slick, leather shoes. Those may not be as conducive to exercise. So if you're a person who's choosing to wear high heels to work, especially pointy heels, you might find yourself not wanting to walk because they're not comfortable. So, having a pair of tennis shoes at your desk so that you can facilitate actually wanting to move your body. Happy feet want to move. Uncomfortable feet don't. And I'm a tennis shoe girl. I mean, I've worn tennis shoes for a long time. I had a brief relationship with fashion. It didn't go well, so I just ended it and went back to those tennis shoes. So no matter what I'm doing or where I am set to walk. I included a picture of a person here in the middle, and they have on, those aren't athletic shoes, but they're definitely shoes that are conducive to walking, depending on how they fit this person's feet and everything else. So you need to think about what you're wearing, and is it going to really help you get the steps that you need without creating blisters or causing more problems up your body. Because remember, what our feet experience travels to our ankles, to our knees, to our hips, and up our spine. So how we treat our feet really does affect the rest of our body. We also need to consider what clothes we're wearing. So I couldn't find a good picture, a good generic kind of picture. So I went with one that was, I know, more traditionally young looking clothes. But they all looked really comfy to me, right? So I was like, oh, this could work. If you are a fashion person and you're wearing clothes that are maybe more restrictive or hot, like as we're heading into summer, into spring, you might want to consider either wearing some undergarments that are going to help you deal with sweat, or maybe just being a little bit more comfortable. So again, if you're working from home, we have a little bit more flexibility, right? So I'm working from home. I still try to dress in a way that it would, if I had to go to the office right now, that I could. I'm not wearing stuff that is completely inappropriate or going to get me in trouble if I were to run over to the GC. And of course, for me, it's all pretty comfy clothes. So if you know that you have to dress in a suit, I know some county workers need to dress up, whatever that means for you. Maybe, again, considering bringing an extra undershirt if you're going to be walking outside, or extra pair of change of underclothes that you can put on. But ultimately, given a little bit of the flexibility that we've been given at the county, if we wear that logoed shirt, we can wear jeans. And jeans aren't necessarily the most walk-friendly or exercise-friendly pair of pants in the world, but there's all sorts of things that fall under jeans nowadays. So just thinking about, what am I wearing? If you're planning on going out on your lunch hour and walking, is that actually going to work for you? And then the other thing is time. When are you going to do this? It's really easy, again, for people to say, oh, I'm just going to work out at work, or I'm going to work out during my lunch hour, or I'm going to work out. Is that really going to be conducive for you? So you want to consider, what time am I going to do this? And that might have to be something that you look at every day. If you're like me and you have this kind of all over schedule, sometimes I'm taking lunch at 11, sometimes it's not till 2. So really looking at your day, maybe it's that you decide it's going to be hard for me to get a lot of steps in at work outside of what we're going to talk about in a little bit. Maybe I do need to arrive a little early so that I can take a couple walks around the government building or whatever building I'm in. Maybe that's the best way for me to try to get those steps in. But really thinking about it, again, I think it's very easy to minimize and simplify exercise, but there is some planning that needs to go into it. And when you're going to be able to do this is one of them. And you might have to talk to your supervisor, hey, is this okay if I do this? The other thing is, what activity are you actually going to do? And those at a government office, it's going to be more restrictive, right? You can't go ride your bike. You're not going to go down and play basketball. You're not going to jog, right? We're really restricted to what I'm going to kind of go over today. Again, many of us are at home now, so maybe we can take a 10-minute break and go out and actually walk around, or go outside and do some other activity that we like to do that are going to get us those steps. And that was something that was hard. I wanted to kind of go into that if you're at home or if you're at work. But if we're at home, we have a little bit more flexibility with what we can do. All right. Oh, and the one other thing that I thought of after this was music. If you have headphones that you can put on at your, while you're working, and you can move your body that way, that's another thing that you might consider. If you're working in kind of a cubicle environment like I do when I'm at the government center, I would need to wear headphones to listen to music. I couldn't put it over a speaker. So that might be something that you also want to think about if you're motivated by music. So let's talk about activities that can be performed in a building. Like a work building. Yeah.
Yes,
So
I have it on
center,
right now. It's right here in the background. Oh, I didn't see that.
Oh,
I
there's
didn't
somebody
get that one.
who's not muted out there. Looks like B Homer is not muted. Don't say anything we don't want to hear. All right. So heading into what we can do in a building. So again, what I was saying was, this is for the people who actually are working at in an office type setting, right? And I don't know, I don't see a lot of cameras on. I know a lot are working from home now. Just because you're working from home, that doesn't mean that these aren't applicable to you, right? And one of the biggest things that we can do is walk. And that's for people who are ambulatory, obviously. Walking with an assisted device like a cane or a walker, that's still walking, right? So still you can get up and move your body, even if it's slower, even if you have an assistive device. But walking is probably the most accessible thing that many of us can do. If you're at the government center, there's that third floor loop that goes between the south and the north building. And I don't know, somebody knows how many miles that is around one loop. And I think it's like 3 or 4 loops, maybe 4 or 5 loops makes a mile. So knowing that kind of thing, knowing if you can get up there and walk that loop, that would be something that would be great. If you're in one of the other government buildings I haven't been in, maybe there's a hallway that you can walk up and down. Again, we've all heard this one, right? Take extra walks to the bathroom, extra long walks to the bathroom. Maybe go to the bathroom on a different floor so you're getting those stairs. Don't take the elevator, all right? Take the stairs up to that next floor or down to that floor beneath you and use the bathroom there and then come back up. I know that takes extra time. I know we're all really busy, but remember, sometimes that time away, we're talking about an extra 2 or 3 minutes, not 10 minutes extra, can also help clear your brain if you've been sitting at your desk for a really long time. I love putting walking lunges down the hallway. I'm that person. I'm that person that you'd probably see doing walking lunges down the hallway. There's nothing wrong with doing walking lunges down the hallway, okay? And it might be inappropriate out in the public hallways, but I'm talking about in your little cubicle office. Maybe you can do some. That's an extreme one, but it is one that you could see. You know, we all work in different areas. I know in the health promotional suite that I'm in, as long as there were no, people from the outside, just workers in there, I could do some walking lunges down the little hallway that we have there. And then, of course, you can do the classes at the Healthy Lifestyle. That's at the government center, and I apologize if I'm so government center oriented. That's just where I work and what I know. But they are offering classes now there. And you might be able to get some extra steps, if nothing else. I don't think we're back, and Sadie, you can correct me later if I'm wrong about this, if we're back to doing like the Mindful Mondays and Walking Wednesdays. It would be so great when we do get back to that. But even going up for a Mindful Monday for a 15-minute meditation, you have to walk up there and walk back down. So there's a way to get some more steps in. But even more so, and I think more of what people are looking for, is what can you actually do at your desk, right? I'm working. I can't go do walking lunges down the hall. It's not going to work. And you can, again, for those people who are ambulatory, you can march or jog in place. And that works, right? I did a little experiment where I just marched for 1 minute, and I was able to get about 100 steps in that minute. So if I did 1 minute every hour I was at work, I work a 6-hour day, there's 600 extra steps that I would get in just from 6 minutes of movement, and from something that's pretty easy to do. Most of you right now have your camera off. Why aren't you marching at your desk, right? Maybe you're doing email, maybe you're not really paying attention, but this would be an excellent excellent time for you to get in 5 minutes, 10 minutes of stepping. So it's choosing, is your time spent better on those emails or kind of doing that stuff that we kind of do when we're not really focused on something, or is that an excellent opportunity for you to kind of focus on that webinar, but also be moving your body? So if you're not ambulatory, if your legs are not where you're going to get your movement from, you can always move your arms, punch in those arms. Now, you're not going to get steps from that off of your device, but I bet there's some sort of conversion. I know that Healthy at Home sent out that conversion sheet. Maybe there's something on boxing that we can convert that arm movement into steps. If not, that's something that I could always work on for people. So we can march or jog in place. You're not necessarily going to get steps from this, but you can stand up. Simply standing up is a great way to, where you've just gotten a sit to stand, right out of that. You're going to open your hips up. That's going to help keep your hip flexors from becoming super tight. And if you're doing this March for May, that's something that you're going to want to watch out for, because our hips are going to get a lot more use than they would usually. So I know many people at the county do have the stand-up desk. Use those. And when we're standing, we can move even while we're working. Right? If I'm stopping to think about something, I can step side to side. I can do some marching. I can use my arms to punch. There are things that I can do while I'm in between tasks. The other thing that we can do is stretch. And so I have a picture of 3 different pictures depicting these things. And I like the person who's walking especially, because there's some focus, it seems like, right? That's another thing you can do. Focus when you're walking somewhere. Be on task. But we can stretch. So we can take those arms up overhead. We can stretch our body. I know that's not going to give us steps, but if we want to maintain our ability to move, we need to move in all sorts of different ways. So again, setting an alarm every hour on the hour and standing up and marching maybe for a minute and then stretching. Stretch doesn't have to be specific. It can just be moving your body in different ways. So these are all things that I can do right here at my desk while I'm working. And now, again, nowadays with so much of what we do being on WebEx, there are opportunities to fit this in when the camera isn't on you. So you guys can all do the little the experiment. How many steps can you get in 60 seconds? And that could be marching or jogging. How many punches can you get in 60 seconds? And convert that. And the last thing that I came up with is you can do some resistance training in your cubicle. Again, you're not necessarily going to get a ton of steps out of that, but you are going to have to stand up, even if you stay seated. You know, buy one of those little bands, put them at your desk. You can do uh, shoulder blade, or scapular retraction. You can do chest press. You can put it under your feet and do bicep curls. You can do tricep extensions with them. I mean, those kind of things. In fact, I used to be across from a person who had bands hooked up in their cubicle. It was awesome. And so whenever they had a second or a minute or whatever, they'd go over and grab those bands and do a bit of arm work. And it was just kind of a way to clear the mind and stimulate the muscle. Still, it involved that standing up or moving the chair over. So theoretically, maybe getting a little bit more steps in. And just real quick for the exercises that you can do that are very simple: bicep curls, tricep extensions is when you extend the arms straight back, moving at the elbow. Rowing is pulling the shoulder blades together. Overhead press or front raise, arms down to the side and up. All of those movements, even if you don't have weights, are a great way to just stimulate your body, get the blood flowing. You know, if we're just sitting and staring at our computers, and even if we're standing and staring at our computers, making sure that you break that up. It's going to make your work more productive, make you feel a little bit better for sure. Again, for those people who are able to stand and sit, even if it means using the sides of the chairs, sit-to-stands are a great thing to add into your day, especially at your desk. You probably would get some steps out of these. That would be an interesting experiment as well. I believe that up and down motion is for people who have a digital device on their wrist, that is going to count as a step. When you're doing your sit-stands, you just want to make sure that you keep your feet in touch with the floor the entire time. And this is assuming that you don't have on heeled shoes. And when I say heeled shoes, I mean probably over an inch, right? Only because that puts our foot at a little bit different angle, which again, what's happening with your foot translates up your body. So if you're wearing any sort of heeled shoe, that is going to translate into tighter calves, which is going to translate into probably tighter hip flexors and quadriceps, which is going to, it has this effect all the way up the body. Doing those sit-to-stands, standing up and sitting down. Instead of maybe walking isn't your thing, but you can stand and sit. Maybe every hour that you're at work, you do 10 sit-to-stands. That is going to most likely translate to steps, and it definitely is going to get your heart rate up, stimulate those legs, get the blood flow going, maybe make you be a little bit more clear as you work. When you do those sit-to-stands, in addition to the feet being in touch with the ground, especially your heels, don't want those heels coming off the ground, you want to stand up completely and sit down completely. Nice and controlled, especially if you're on one of those wheeled, chairs that have wheels on them. You definitely want to make sure you're safe if you're going to do those. If it's unsafe, then don't do that. Some of us have multiple chairs in our little cubicle. Some of them are a little bit more sturdy. Of course, choosing the sturdy chair is the way to go. We want to keep our knees above our ankles, right, and minimize those knees falling in. So as we are at if you're at your home and you can walk up and down your hallway. If you can take a 15-minute lunch and take a 15-minute walk instead of a 30-minute lunch, great, right? That I think being at home gives us a lot more flexibility with how we use our time, just because we can go outside as opposed to just walking in a building. I know that if you're working from home, we're still, putting in our 8 hours or 6 hours, and we're not taking long breaks, but thinking about how we're using our lunch hour and how we're using our breaks, our bathroom breaks, and those kind of things. So with that, let's do a little bit of movement. I'm going to turn this off, and we're going to do a little 1-minute test to see how many steps we get in. And if you don't want to do this, that's okay, but hey, why not, right? Now's the time. You got the total excuse. You're on a WebEx meeting. You're paying attention. You can stand up and march for a minute, all right? So that's what we're going to do. If for some reason you don't want to, or you're just not going to stand, you're going to punch instead of marching. All right, so this first thing we're going to do is stand up, and everybody's going to count their own steps. And I'm going to time you. All right, 3, 2, 1, begin. And of course, you can jog. Halfway. Come on. $15 seconds. And stop. If you're so inclined, you can put in there's a couple ways you can do that. So you can just count like I did. Now, whether that translates to your wrist device, I don't know. Mine seemed to be about there. My wrist device probably got more than what I counted. And I counted about 93 for me. And that was just me marching. Anybody else want to put in the chat what they, oh, I didn't share. Sorry, I haven't stopped sharing my screen here. What they got, okay, so we got 103, 120, 101. All right, so we're getting some good numbers. 150. All right, Tammy. Yeah, so you can jog, right? So all of a sudden, even if you're getting 10 steps, that's 10 steps more than. Yeah, I understand. The dog, that's funny. That's good. Yes, the pups add such a fun. I love doing WebEx meetings with people who have dogs and have to stop and throw the ball for their dog. But anyway, you can see we've gotten some really good numbers here. Excellent. I appreciate everybody who participated in that. As you can see, if you did that 8 times, you would, multiply that by 8, and generally, I mean, we could get 1,000 extra steps. And when you're doing March into May, 1,000 extra steps makes a difference. If you're trying to hit that 10,000 step a day goal, which I know is kind of random, but I think it's still a good target to try to hit, you just did a tenth of it right there, just during work, just marching. You've done a tenth of your daily steps. So that's one of those easy ways. And again, for those of you who marching is not your thing, you can sit in your chair and march. I don't know that will translate, but you can write it down. And punches, right? I mean, I'm going to say punches are probably about the same as your steps because you can go pretty fast. It might be a little bit less. I see that we have one hand up. Um, Caroline, can we take that question? Caroline, you can unmute yourself, I think.
Yeah, I requested her to unmute.
Okay. Maybe it was a mistake. That's okay. Caroline, if you decide that you do have a question, you're welcome to ask. So we can do that. So let's just say that the March into May is obviously on everybody's mind. We want to get our steps in. But if you're thinking, hey, I wouldn't mind getting a little bit more physical work in during my 8 hours of work or 10 hours or 12 hours or whatever you're working. There you have that, always have that arsenal of the jogging, the stepping. You can step side to side, right? You can do high knees. I call these mountain climbers. It's the high knee with the arm overhead. So one of the things that I thought of was you could do an interval workout. So let's say that you had 5 minutes and you're like, okay, I want to actually do something more than march because marching is driving me crazy. You could still jog for 30 seconds. You could do steps side to side for 30 seconds. You could do mountain climbers for 30 seconds, right, where you're lifting the knee up. You can reach up overhead and touch your knees for 30 seconds. And then you could do sit to stands for 30 seconds. And then repeat that whole thing. That's going to be a 5-minute workout. That's going to get your heart rate going. It's going to give you some extra steps. It's going to stimulate your brain. And it's pretty easy. I came up with those movements just kind of off the top of my head. And I know I'm an aerobics instructor, so that stuff's just there in my brain. But it doesn't have to be super fancy. We're just moving our body. So again, kind of step. So remember interval workouts. If you get bored easily, change your exercise into smaller increments and repeat them. 30 seconds or 15 seconds, that kind of thing. And yeah, I got Misty put in here. There's a lot of good step workouts on YouTube. There are. And I mean, if we're talking about stuff that you can do at home, then we've opened this up a ton, right? Theoretically, we've opened it up. For some people, we haven't. Maybe you don't really have time, right? You wake up in the morning, you're getting people to school, you don't have that personal time, and we talk about making that personal time because it's important, even if it's only 15 minutes, right? So that workout that I just described is something you can do at home. Do those exercises 30 seconds a piece and repeat it 2, 4, 6 times. There's a 15-minute workout right there. No, I don't need any hand weights. I don't need any equipment. All I need is my body and a 3x3 square in a room to do that workout. And that would make a big difference throughout your day. But there are great things on line now. Obviously, COVID has really helped that. You can go to YouTube and there's a lot of workouts. Salt Lake County Aging and Adult Services, we have great workouts. I've done some of them. I mean, I'm the person doing them, so I mean, they got to be good. But there's other people that do them. We have outside people who we've watched them and make sure that they're good workouts that you can watch. Now, a lot of them are geared towards the older adult because that's who we work for, right? But guess what? It doesn't matter. Older adults are humans too. We're not talking about sitting in the chair and moving our wrists. These are workouts that are suitable for really anybody. But there's that. Obviously, there's joining a gym. There's all of those other kind of things. But I think if you're already doing that, then we don't need to really talk about that. It's how do we put movement into our lives while we're living our lives, right? And that's the hard part. And really, I was just giving a presentation yesterday and talking with a woman who said, I do get, I work out, I walk for 3 miles in the morning. And then she said, and then I go to work and I sit for 8 hours. And I was like, you know what? That's the fact that you're walking 3 miles in the morning is great. But to make it even more effective, try moving once an hour while you're at work. Instead of just thinking, okay, I walk my 3 miles, now I can sit. It's no. For those 8 hours, 10 hours we're at work, we should be moving during that. So whether it's, I truly put in here, we have the 3-minute break desk stretches, yes, that's a wonderful link. Something that you can just get up and move your body again, get the blood flowing through your brain, stimulate your brain a little bit so that you can even be better at your work, right? Clearer at what you're doing. Okay. Let's see, we have another one under well steps, new. You can use video 10,000 indoor step challenge. Okay. So that's in the well step. Is that in the thing that you showed us before, Trudy?
Yeah, it's in the Well Steps app where you
Okay.
get your monthly points. There's a news you can use, and they also have challenges on there too if you need some inspiration.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, online definitely has, I mean, there are apps nowadays that you can download to your phone that will remind you every hour to do something, or probably even show you a little workout that you can do. So these are all ways to put movement into our life without committing to exercise, right? And a lot of us, we just don't have the time. I would love for you all to do 30 minutes of exercise every day, and then have 3 or 4 more hours of movement worked into your day just by getting up, doing sit-to-stands, moving around, walking to the bathroom, those kind of things. But if you can't do the workouts, we all can fit that movement into our lives. It's kind of like when you take a moment and think, how much time am I on my phone looking at things that don't necessarily really benefit me? Can I use that time to move my body? You know, how often do I check emails, or how often do I look at news? Things that I know we need to be up to date on news, but we don't need to be updated on it more than twice a day. It doesn't have to be something we got to look at every hour or more. So replacing that with movement. So hopefully I've given you some ideas of what you might be able to do. Again, with the specifics for the healthy at home, the March into May, and how we can do it at work. That was my real focus, and hopefully we can, because if we can get an extra 2,000 steps while we're at work, then that we can still go and do the hounds around town, and we can still go and do the stuff that we're going to do on the weekends, and in the morning workouts or the afternoon workouts. So with this, are there any questions or any additions? Does anybody out there have something that they have done and that they find really effective for getting steps in or getting workouts in while they're at work? Anybody out there?
While people are putting those in the chat, I think it's also important to be moving to decrease pain. You're looking in the same area, your posture's in the same spot for so many hours a day that I start to get some neck pain or back pain, but if you were moving throughout the day, then we can decrease that.
Absolutely. In fact, on the webinar I was giving yesterday, I talked about specifically, this is not a popular thing to say, but the reality is aches and pains are part of our life, whether we're super active or super sedentary or somewhere in between. You're always going to have some ache and pain. The difference is what's causing the aches and pains. Is it just sitting around, or is it because you've actually been moving your body? And again, when I say move your body, I mean to whatever extent you can move your body, right? We all have different things. So it does help with pain. It helps you at least know where that pain's coming from. And remember, synovial fluid, that's the fluid that nourishes our joints, doesn't come to us unless we move our joints. So you want to nourish those joints and help with joint pain, move your body for sure. We got some comments in here. The restroom on the different floor, I loved that when I was working at the government center. That was always a favorite of mine. Or I just walk around the loop a couple times. When I was new, I got lost. So if you're at the government center, be careful of that. The stairs at the government center, of course, and stairs at most buildings, as long as you feel safe and as long as they're not locking doors, obviously that's a great one to do. And yeah, pairing up with the coworker is wonderful. Let's see, we got when warming up food in the microwave, I'll either do some walking in the room or make a lap around the office or hallway instead of just sitting or waiting around. Yes, and I think that is a really good point of noticing how often are you just standing? You know, can you say to the person that you're talking to, hey, can we just walk and talk? Can we walk around the loop in our little office here, or can we, walk along the hallways or something like that? But yeah, instead of standing around while you're getting the food in the microwave, walking, I love that. And yeah, I do the dog thing. I do, especially if I've been sitting and doing data entry. I will take the dog out for a 10-minute walk. It just helps clear my brain for sure. But that's a benefit that I have from being at home. Um, the mini elliptical under the desk, that's interesting. Is that just your legs, your feet, kind of doing that? It sounds like we got some good things in here. Walking the halls at the jail, marching at your desk, doing. Nobody said anything about resistance training. Don't forget about that. That's an easy one too. Buy a little band. They don't cost a lot, and you can do that at your desk. That's excellent, everybody. I appreciate your input on the chats. Hopefully, we all learned something from those or got some new ideas. And I do hope that everybody, keeps with the March into May. I do love March into May. It's a great one. And if there's no other questions, I'm absolutely happy to answer any other questions that you may have. We're still getting stuff in the chat. Oh, that's a good one, Dee. Park as far away as you can in the morning. Yeah. Again, as long as you feel safe, as long as it's not causing an issue, but that is a great way to get extra steps in. That's a really good one. Yeah. Excellent. Excellent, everybody. All right, I don't see any other hands up. Sadie, I think that's all I got for you today.
Thank you so much, Paige. And I think, yeah, March into May helps think of opportunities to keep moving, right? Especially with it being a little bit of a team challenge. So hopefully now you have some ways of, okay, I've done the marching in place. Now what can I do with the sits to stands or hands up to knees and those types of things. So thank you so much for sharing those.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And thank you, everybody who's here. You'll be seeing me putting in my numbers for the challenge as well.
Thank you, everybody. Go outside and move. It's a beautiful day.
It is a beautiful day. Thanks, Sadie. Appreciate it.
Have a good weekend.
Thanks, everybody.